The role of the media in keeping the 7th administration accountable remains very important. The media has always been criticized for being anti-ANC government, and in the past couple of weeks we've heard utterances from various political leaders accusing media houses of all sorts of things. Tshamano Makhadi of South African National Editors Forum joins us now, and we'll talk about media freedom, educating society and disseminating information through the media, and dealing with threats that emanate from various sectors in attempting to censor journalists. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Congratulations on your new appointment as the Deputy Chair of SANEF.
No, thank you so much, Katleho. Good morning to you and the viewers of Newzroom Afrika.
No, thank you so much. You've got your work cut out for you as SANEF with regards to now this 7th administration. What's your view in terms of the media's role in holding the Government of National Unity accountable in the 7th administration?
I must say the role of media remains important, and I should add to say probably more than ever before, the role of media is more important now, given the context of where we find ourselves as a nation. So much has happened. You can talk about issues of corruption, you can talk about unemployment, but of course it is also about the promises that politicians in particular make to the people of South Africa. Some of the promises that have been made, if you were to go back and just really citing examples of the Job Summit. I remember 2008, using that as our reference, when they were talking about creating about 11 million jobs. Where are we today? Has that happened? What are those, plans? It is those kind of statements that when they are made, the media, their role is to keep, tabs and making sure that they make follow-up, and so that it's not really just a matter of talk. But of course, I mean, you're talking now, the president was giving a state of the nation. It is within that context when promises are made, this and that is talked about, some 3 months down the line, what then happens? So the role of media, it's quite an important one. I mean, we came out of an election. It is that and more, which I would say the media always have to, keep its eyes on.
Most certainly, and I mean, it's up to the media to continuously give information to South Africans in order for them to be able to mold and shape their minds around what is happening in their country, in order for them to be able to make informed decisions. Yesterday on the show, I spoke to a political analyst, and we were just looking back at the political parties' reactions to the president's opening address. And one statement that he made was that we still view this GNU as the ANC government. How important is it for media to educate South Africans in how we now view this government that is a collective and them being held accountable collectively and not just with the ANC?
I think the media has an important role to play. Obviously, the general public, they have not really been sort of exposed to the context of where we are, the Government of National Unity. You got to break it down. I mean, if you were to go back 1994, it probably just lasted for about 2 years, I would say. No one has been speaking about Government of National Unity from that point. So the generation, and I'm talking about the young people that are growing, in South Africa, without really understanding that context. How do you make sure that they understand it? What is it that can be expected? So it then becomes very important, because the media, it is there to, of course, inform, educate, isn't it? So it becomes a very important role within that context, because there are just so many dynamics here.
Speaking of many dynamics, I mean, we saw how the MK party and the former president was slamming the SABC to stop referring to the 7th administration as the GNU. How do you tackle such dynamics?
Let's just face it. I mean, what else can you call it? If it's called Government of National Unity. But again, I think it tells us we always have to, make sure that we stand against some of these things. Obviously, we strive for media freedom. We want to make sure that South Africa and the continent, of course, we strive for media freedom. It's important because it's even enshrined in the Constitution of the Republic. So when you begin to see those kind of things, you just have to know that there are problems here. I think it was actually very unfair and something that not only media practitioners should fight for, but the general South African public also have to understand that in the end, it's really about them. You can imagine if all our voices are shut, who's then going to speak around all of these issues? So it was very unfortunate, but I think we have people who also understand the role of media and what it does for a nation. Of course, also to keep a democracy alive as well.
Speaking of that media freedom, it also comes with a lot of responsibility. I mean, you've seen accusations of many media houses being accused of being captured, of sending out a certain narrative that suits for a certain collective of people within a society. How do we ensure that you keep that balance of being responsible within the freedom that you're given as media?
Katleho, I'll tell you this, throughout the world, the relationship between media and a government, it's always been,
topsy-turvy.
Yeah, it's a touch and go, right? So really, what we see in South Africa, it's really not unique. Obviously, when you want to keep people, or rather to hold them to account, of course, there's always going to be, problems. They are always going to come up with strategies, I would call it, right? And some use some of these attacks as a way of discrediting you, so that by the time you report on a particular story, you would be viewed as somebody who is not credible either at an individual level as a journalist or a media house. But we have always been aware, and what is important now, as I indicated in our introduction, it is important that South African media, the people of South Africa, understand the importance and the role of media, particularly within a context of a democratic state like we are here in South Africa. I mean, just 30 years on. Democracies like the United States, who've gone over 200 years, they still have their own challenges.
Of course.
But what is important is to understand that we've got to soldier on. And I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that as we continue, South Africa will make good progress here.
And in that soldiering on, of course, digital platforms have helped to amplify some of those marginalized voices.
No, without doubt. I mean, I think we can, already see the difference. And I mean, comparatively speaking, you have people who are also able to share their own content. But all of this, I would say, also comes with a sense of responsibility. We have also seen a lot of challenges with the good that we are talking about, issues around misinformation and disinformation, yes. But something that we continue to work on with the hope that, people don't just take what they find with, within the digital space as the gospel truth. Yeah.
Just lastly, speak to us about the aspirations as SANEF that you have for the media space as a whole, and just some of the collaborative efforts that you have with stakeholders, with government, in just enhancing the shared objectives that we have as a nation, in educating people about this new GNU.
So there's quite a number of initiatives, and I'll just make reference to what we did in the build-up to the elections. We were able to gather around, I would say, journalists and obviously government officials as well, but also with the understanding that what was going to happen, obviously, within the context of misinformation and disinformation. Everyone has a role in making sure that, the election, which we were hoping that it doesn't go the other way, people also play a role by means of making sure that whatever that is shared, there isn't misinformation. You also have challenges, of course, when people start to peddle false information, like we would have seen in other countries where a simple information that is shared, where you find that people or nations, they fight against each other. We would have seen what would have happened if you were to take the genocide in Rwanda. So collaborative efforts are there, and I'm just citing that just as an example. But within the context of what you're asking, Government of National Unity, we are continuing to speak to different, editors, journalists, obviously, with the hope that what we now have on the table, we will continue to share that information in making sure that people obviously do understand what it is and what is it that they can expect.
All right, Tshamano, thank you so much for your time, and we certainly do hope that the media will be given that platform in carrying this very heavy duty on their shoulders and ensuring that South Africans are educated adequately. That was South African National Editors Forum Deputy Chairperson Tshamano Makhadi.